You're welcome to our last video on Surds. This is the 6th video and we are on rationalizing the denominator of Surds. We have treated question 1 and question 2 on the screen. In this video clip we're going to look at question 3. And question 3 states that given that root 2 is equal to 1.14 and that root 3, please permit me, let me increase the thickness of this marker, and that root 3 is equal to 1.732. We have to evaluate several expressions. There are 3 expressions specifically. The first one is 1 all over root 2. Now take note that questions like this would also attach to its condition that you should not use mathematical calculator or any other form of mathematical table, which means just go ahead and solve it. The very great mistake you make is to do a direct substitution by saying, oh, root 2 has been given to me as 1.414. Now, the moment you get to this stage, you cannot simplify it because this becomes very difficult for you to carry out this division. Why? Because root 2 is an irrational number and the denominator we have right now is 1.414, so difficult for us to divide into 1. We should have first rationalized the denominator. Let's see, doing that, how it will help us. So 1 all over root 2. First and foremost, before we carry out that substitution, we rationalize, and we know how to do that by now. We divide both the numerator and the denominator by root 2, that is the value in the denominator. And that gives us 1 times root 2, which is root 2. And also root 2 times root 2, which will agree that it is 2. And now we can substitute and say, okay, root 2 is given to us as 1.414, now divided by 2. I remember when I was in primary school, I can easily divide this. I said this is 0 point in 14, that will be 7. Into 1 is 0 again, and into 14, that will give me 7. You see, this is easier to operate compared to this. Of course, if you use a mathematical calculator to divide this, you will get the same thing as 0.707. Let's look at question 3II. Let's write this out first. So that's it, number 1 there. First of all, rationalize to root 2 over 2 and then substitute 1.414. Dividing by 2, we have 0.707. Question 2, that is II, is already on the screen. Again, if I try to substitute the value of the 3 here, I will run into the same jam I had in the first one. So I won't even attempt that in this case. I'll just go ahead and rationalize 2 root 3. I'm sure you know I can just use only root 3 to do this job. I don't have to write 2 root 3, but if you want to use 2 root 3, no problem. You'll still arrive at the same answer. Now 3 times root 3 is what? 3 root 3. Now dividing 2 root 3 times 3. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. Multiplied by 2 will give us 6. Of course, I can cancel here 1. I can cancel there 2. And that gives me root of 3 divided by 2. Wonderful. Now we can do our substitution because we have rationalized that denominator. Substituting root 3 was given to us as 1.732. So this will be 1.732 divided by 2. Dividing that 2 into 1 is 0 into 17. I have 8. Take 1 to 3, that's 13. 2 into 13 gives me 6. Take 1 again to 2, that becomes 12. 2 into 12 gives me 6. And that's it there, 0.866 is the correct value. If we had attempted to first and foremost substitute into this, we would have arrived at something like this. 3 divided by 2 into 1.732, being the value of root 3 there. And then if you had gone further, you would have locked yourself in this prison, where you would have had 4, 6, 4, and then 3. And of course, you can't divide this without a calculator. Meanwhile, the question would have required that you should solve this without using any mathematical device. So that's it for 3II. Let's look at the last question. So you can see there, in this case, sorry, let's go back to 3II. You can see 2 root 2 was used. I told you can use it, there will be no problem. You still arrive at 3 root 3 over 2, and then you substitute root 3, and that gives you 0.866. Finally, 1 divided by root 3 minus root 2. Without being told, this is a composite expression. Our denominator is a composite expression, so we need the conjugate. So I'll say 1 all divided by root 3 minus root 2. I will have to multiply it by the conjugate, which is root 3 plus root 2, and also multiply the denominator by what? Root 3 plus root 2. The rest is history. 1 times up there will give me root of 3 times root of 2. If we multiply the numerator, or the denominator rather, of course this is difference of 2 square, I can say root 3 square, that will give me 3. Please, you can do this on your own if you don't understand what I'm doing. Root 2 times root 2, that's 2. What have I done there? I've simply done root 3 square minus root 2 square. We said when you have a minus b, a plus b, it is difference of 2 squares. So I put the minus sign there. So that's 3 minus 1. Let's look at this neatly. That's it there. In this case, I carried out the whole entire what? Multiplication. Root 3 times root 3 is 3. Root 3 times root 2 is plus root 6. Minus root 2 times root 3 is minus root 6. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. Of course, as I've always said, this will always cancel out and become 0. So we have 3 minus 2. So that's it. Remember, it is 3 minus 2 is 1. So we just have what? We have, let's put this well. From here, we would have had something like this. Root 3 plus root 2 divided by 3 minus 2, because this is already 0. That will give us 1. So that's why we have here root 3 plus root 2. And then of course the value of root 3 has been given to us as 1.732, and then we also put here 1.414, and that gives us 3.146. Do not forget that if you are attempted to substitute the value of root 3 there as 1.732 and also here as 1.414, you would have ended up in 1 all over some irrational expression, and that would be difficult to operate without using some mathematical calculator or a 4-figure table. Now with this, we have come to the end of Surds. We have seen how to simplify Surds. We've seen how to operate algebra of Surds, and also how to rationalize Surds with the denominator as just a single surd, or with a composite surd where we need what? We need to use conjugate. Now before we call it a close, why don't you try your hands on this? Rationalize the denominator of the following expressions, and then question number 2. Simplify that. Remember to rationalize first the denominator before substituting the values. It's been Iniking video tutorial. I'm sure you've all had a wonderful time. That's all for Surds for senior secondary school mathematics.